Welcome. Now what we're going to take a look at is the next step in our PrintVis rapid start process. This step is the one that sets up the PrintVis specific portions of our system, specifically by going to Actions and PrintVis Configuration Worksheet. This reaches out to the web service that we verified in our first video to grab the necessary items needed for our PrintVis system. You'll notice there's a list of areas to go through. It has our name and the status of that, whether those users are present, the status codes, component types, the format code, material types. There's an instruction that you can mouse over to view the full thing, as well as the information as to whether or not it's there. To access each section, you highlight the line and hit select. This brings up our list. From here, we're able to create our users. We can select from our user list and click OK. Enter our name, any information for that user. We can select whether the production employee is an estimator, a salesperson, allow them to edit customer fields, allow them credit limit override, and allow archiving. You'll notice that the selections we have on this list aren't quite as detailed as the ones we had when we went into the user list, setting up a user in a previous video. This is by design, as this allows us to make our users rather quickly and then go in at a later date and edit the additional information for that user. Once we have at least one user created, we can click close and move on to the next section. You'll notice that now our number of records for PrintVis user setup show 1 and the status shows as ready, meaning that this is complete. To move on to the next status, we select status codes and select. This is a list of default status codes from the system. From this list, you can select the status codes that you'd like to import into your system. Please note, this is just a beginning. Just because you import the status codes here does not mean that you are not able to add or edit the status codes at a later date. We will talk about how to add and edit status codes once Rapid Start has been completed in a future video. To select the status code you'd like to import, you can select all or deselect all and just select the ones you would like. In my case, I'm going to select all and click OK. This creates all 12 status codes in our system. You'll also notice that the information field on the far side is changing as we add things to our items. For component types, the component types are press types as to specify the type of sheets that are used, whether it's a business card, a cover text, jacket, folders, if it's a newspaper. These, again, are able to be edited after the system has been started. This is just to get your system started in a quick manner. In my case, I'm going to leave everything selected except for newspapers and a 4 and 3-fold folder. So I will click OK, and you'll notice now I have 11 component types. Format code, this is the finished size or the size sheet that you run. To do that, we select US standard inch. If you run metric, you can select metric at this point as well. However, this determines what your system is set to use, whether you use inches or metric. And this cannot be changed once it is set. If you need to make a change after the system has been set, the system has to be started over from scratch with a new company. Our item type code, this specifies the type of items that we will have for raw materials. Again, this list can be edited once you have completed setup. In my case, I'm going to set up everything except for the envelope type. If you want to change the code, as with any of the fields in our setup, under the Own Code section, you are able to change this code and click OK. Item qualities, again, affect our inventory items. The color table defines the naming of the CMYK and our varnish ink, whether we want it to be cyan, black, magenta, yellow, and varnish or not. Our order types, pre-press only jobs, sheet offset, web offset, digital subcontractor. If we wanted to change a text here, we can change this. And for instance, since I'm not planning on doing web printing, as I don't have a web press, I can remove that from my system. My product groups, if I do not print boxes, I do not print newspapers, I do not print displays, and I do not print books. For that matter, I'm not going to print catalogs. I am able to come in and change any of these. If I want to change leaflets to flyers, I can change leaflets to flyers by selecting and changing the text under the own code and own text. If I'd like to change the codes as well, I can do that at this point. I do not have a pre-flight department. The cost centers will be the area that you spend the most time. Cost centers is where we bring in the equipment that you have in each department. When we hit select, we're presented with a different screen than before. You'll notice that each cost center is split out into department, and each department should have at least one cost center in it. For our administration, I will select admin sales and hit add. You'll notice that it reaches out and brings in all of the information for that unit, and it presents me with another screen. At this point, I'm able to select my new cost center code if I'd like to change that code, my new cost center text, and I can change the text for any operation that's in the system. I'm not able to change the operation code. However, I can change the text. And I click OK to add it to my cost center. And now the cost department for administration has a cost center. Each department needs to be added. And you need to do this for each one. You have to add each cost center one at a time. So for each department, you will go through and select each cost center. This loads a default rate and cost for each department, each cost center into your system. And we will, at a later date, go further into how to update those rates. Plate production, we have an Excel, printing, Speedmaster Excel. If I wanted to add multiple trimming for pre and post press trimming, I could do that at this point and just change my cost center code and the cost center text. And then we will add shipping and we will move on to our next section. This area of the rapid start is where you will spend the most time. Once that's complete, we could click close, and now we can see that we have 7 records in our cost center. As we move along under cost center rates, at this point, we go in and for each section, we enter in our rates. This is how the system knows what to charge when it's building out the estimate. We enter in our variable cost, our labor costs, our overhead, and any net profit we'd like to charge on that. And for each cost center, we go through and enter in our rates. This is where a little bit of homework ahead of time saves a lot of time on this part. Hopefully, when you reach this section of our rapid start, you already have a list of your rates so that you're able to just plug them in for each cost center that you're creating. And we hit close. If we have any that are not there, the system will let us know that it is missing. It does not prevent you from finishing the rapid start at that point. It strictly alerts you that not all cost center rates are set up. Under additional rates, we hit select, and we're able to enter any additional rates, such as any overhead for materials, subcontracting rates that we want to add to our subcontracting, any markups that we'd like to add as well. And we can hit close. Under the items, we're able to add some information for the basic items that are set up in our system. At a minimum, the system is set up with standard boxes, 4 inks for our process colors, and a varnish that were specified. At this point, we can go in and specify a direct cost per item, as well as how that unit is charged, whether it's charged in pounds, in the instance of our inks, and how it's stored in inventory. If you do make changes, as you can see, to the price unit or the inventory unit, you'll have to add your costs back. So make those changes first and then hit OK. Under opening hours, this is the hours that our departments are open for the week. And it has a start time. So if we start at 8 a.m. in our admin department, but our pre-press department starts at 6, our plate department starts at 6, our press room starts at midnight, our finishing department starts at 6, and our shipping department starts at 6. And then the time that it is open too. So we run from 8 to 5 in our admin. Admin is generally project management, sales, accounting. And then pre-press through shipping would be production. Our pre-press department runs till 8 p.m. You can enter the time in 24-hour time, and the system automatically knows that would be 8 p.m. if I put in 20. If I put in 8 p.m., I do have the ability to change my AM to PM by simply selecting PM. However, since my press runs, I can leave it like that. My finishing department runs till 10 p.m. and my shipping department runs till 8 p.m. as well. The easy thing to do, especially on departments where the time is the same, you can enter in a time in a field and hit F8 to copy the field above. To enter in, if your department runs 24 hours, instead of having it run from 12, your to time on Monday should be 23:59, so that the system knows that it runs 24 hours. And those fields need to be filled in for the 7 days of the week. In the top, we have the ability to create entries up until. This allows us to create that calendar so that the system knows how long you have open. We'd like to create this out, so we can select through December 31st, 2021. And that will populate our times through December 31st, 2021. I will hit close, and we'll move on to our next section. And that runs, and you'll notice that now it's applying those changes to the calendar. So from Monday, it will have times, and it put in those records for those dates. Under our next section of milestones, milestones are an additional way to mark how the job is moving through your shop, in addition to the standard status codes. These are things that are not necessarily production statuses, such as proof out to customer and proof back from customer, whether the plates are in production, the paper is in-house. These are just additional codes so that your project managers and your production staff have a way to tell where the job is or the status of the job in-house. We can select all of these and then just the ones that we want and hit OK to create our milestones. The last section we have is extra work codes. These are used to specify responsibility for any extra work carried out on jobs. By default, you do not have to have anything in this section. However, you do have the ability to skip over this system. Once we've completed this worksheet and everything is ready, is marked ready, our system is ready to use. From here, we can change our role center back to PrintVis coordinator, hit OK, and log back into our default system. There is a little bit of additional work that needs to be done to set up our system under the general setup, such as setting our number series, any additional quantities, and the rest of our items that we've covered under our PrintVis general setup review.